Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting week of the next issue. This week, we're going to take advantage, much like a lot of people do, of the fact of the new movie coming out, The Suicide Squad, is debuting this Friday. So, well, no, that's not all I was going to do. Nice fake out there, I'm sure. But anyway, I know a lot of places, a lot of people are probably discussing and reviewing the movie, and I personally am not going to get to see this movie for a little while. And by a little while, I don't mean like a month or anything, but I'm not going to get to see it debut weekend like I want to, because I have other engagements. A little bit more on that at the end of the video here, but what I thought I would do is I thought I'd have a little bit of fun with this one. You know me, I like to do most of my informative stuff and go over a lot of the details and stuff in my articles, but my videos I like to try and have some real fun with, and so the fun part for me is creating my own Suicide Squad, which is something I would love to see and hear from you guys out there of who you would like to have on the Suicide Squad. Out of all the iterations there have been over the years, what's been your favorite, and who would you put together as your favorite members? For me, the New 52 Suicide Squad's been almost spot on. But I can't help but really enjoy the fact that, there's been books that have kind of mimicked Suicide Squad that had teams I really liked there, and when they put those teams together, or they take elements from some of those teams, then you kind of get that mix there. So obviously my first vote's going to be the fact that I really do love Harley Quinn being on the team. Now, I know anyone's going to groan and moan. It's like there's too much Harley out there. And in a lot of ways, I have to agree. But Harley does bring some crazy excitement, fun level of just, enjoyment to the book. Where this would normally be what your normal Deathstroke book would be, just dead serious hunting people, doing your missions and everything. Harley brings that lightheartedness, that breakaway, quite literally being the comedic relief that the book needs. Don't get me wrong, a good Suicide Squad story is going to be dark and serious through most of the story. But if I had to go year after year just reading a book that had nothing that made me smile, I just don't 100% know that I could do it, at least personally. There may be plenty of readers out there that can. I'm not one of them. I don't have to have a book that makes me laugh all the time, but I don't need a book that makes me just absolutely, that is just absolutely dead serious all the time either. Now, it's one of the things that Harley and the Joker and the Riddler and some other characters that have that little extra funny part to their insanity kick into at the Batman stories. Because, Batman books, for the most part, are going to be dark and serious. But even Batman, both in the cartoons and in the books and whatnot, has his moments where he does something or says something that makes us bust out laughing because it's out of nowhere. So, I'm going to keep Harley in my version of the Suicide Squad. And I did mention the New 52 version. So, while I do love King Shark, I really do, I'm going to have to break in and go that I really also would rather enjoy seeing Black Manta as my, other part there for my extra villain and my extra muscle and whatnot, because he's, anyone that's read Aquaman and the New 52 knows he's not a joke in any way. He is really damn tough, and Black Manta is insanely tough nowadays, and having him in there is just, it's really... It adds that element of unknown, because so many readers know about Black Manta, but they don't follow him as much, so he brings that unpredictability that a lot of readers aren't used to, because they get all these characters they really enjoy, but then here's this character that they've not really followed, they just know a little bit of, and so you can really run with that. Take advantage of the fact that there's all these people that don't know this character's personality. You know his motives, you know his origin, but you don't know how this guy would really react when put in these situations. Now, I'm going to have to rip Captain Boomerang out of the team. I'm sorry, I'm not sold on Captain Boomerang as a member. What I do enjoy is the idea of having a character like Bane. Now, hear me out. I don't mean the iterations of Bane that we get stuck with over the last few years. Much like Doomsday, they've really nerfed his abilities and nerfed the real, what made the character great when he first showed up, honestly. Bane, circa the 90s, when he broke the Batman and was actually a criminal mastermind and drew his army together and conquered Gotham and broke the Bat. Intelligent Bane. Bane from The Secret Six, which is one of my favorite books ever, to be honest. Pre-Flashpoint, Secret Six. Bane is amazing. So you'd have Bane, Harley, Black Manta, and I'm going to keep Deadshot. He's just amazing. He's awesome. But the current Suicide Squad has removed an element of Deadshot that I know they've tried to replace that element with Harley, and I just don't think it works as well as it did with Catman. For lack of a better word, the bromance between Catman and Deadshot in Secret Six was just absolutely awesome. It really was. It was amazing. And what they did with Catman back then is very relatable to what they've done to Aquaman now. They took this goofy character that was just not in any way believable to be a threat to almost anyone, honestly, and made him amazing. Now, given later on they made him a costume that was basically, I'm surprised Batman didn't sue him for copyright infringement, and it once again kind of went more on the goofy side, but his character, his personality didn't change once they made him into a badass. And that was what was awesome, especially, once again, like I said, when he was going back and forth with Deadshot. That was awesome. Now, I also don't want to just make it, nothing but the guys, but I'm not a big avid follower of Katana. She's really good as a character, don't get me wrong, but I think she would do better either directly involved in a Batman book like Detective Comics or Batman itself, or in a different kind of team book, I mean, I might be relating her too much to Psylocke in that sense, but Katana in Suicide Squad, while she fits, it's just not... There's not as much room for character growth there for her. I would rather see a character like Artemis or Cheetah, which we've seen Cheetah in the New 52 version of Suicide Squad. And we're going to get to see New 52 Artemis here soon in the Dark Trinity version of Red Hood and the Outlaws. I think I would rather kind of go with Artemis, just to go with my how much I'm a fan of a lot of the stories of the 90s. And you've got another Amazon, a dark Wonder Woman, so to speak, there. Where Cheetah is kind of like the arch rival for Wonder Woman. They're really playing in the New 52, Artemis kind of being more like a dark mirror. And I think that... Whereas Cheetah's already got good growth in the Wonder Woman books, and Katana needs a different book to help her growth, I think Suicide Squad would be a good book to help Artemis get better character development, because you've seen her as Wonder Woman in the 90s, as a hero, you've seen her on the island, but you've never seen her put in this kind of environment with these villains and put on these suicide missions. We're going to get to see a hint of that in the current, the current Red Hood and the Outlaws book, but until, and I can't wait to see that, by the way. I really think, I was a big fan of the old one, with Starfire and Arsenal, and the only thing that might put a bad taste in my mouth with the new Outlaws book will be how they handle Bizarro, but that's not here or there. So, going down the list right now, I have Bane, Harley, Deadshot, Catman, and Artemis. And I believe that would almost be it for my version of a Suicide Squad. But you kind of need. You've got Bane's both mastermind and muscle. You've obviously got Deadshot for your ability to, distance, sniping and stuff. You have Artemis, more muscle, but from more Amazonian combat training. Harley's the wild card. Catman is like having a different version of Batman on the team. And I'm really not sure on the sixth member there. Well, actually, I meant, sorry, not six members, seventh member, because I did have Black Manta there. So Black Manta, Bane, Harley, Artemis, Deadshot, Catman, and just to bring that seventh member in, because see, here's the thing: you bring this whole group of villains together, and while there's Bane and Black Manta are going to feud for control of the team right there, which could make for a good story. But a good team needs a good leader, and I'm not talking about Amanda Waller. The Wall, while directing them, telling them where they're gonna go, while she's a good leader, I guess in this case while she's the technical leader, you need more of a good team captain. And if you really want to make this team stable, which with a team called the Suicide Squad already is going to be very hard to do, but if you want to make this team stable, you need Captain Cold. I'm going to replace one Flash villain for another here, but you take the leader of the Rogues, which is basically the most honorable villain group you're going to find in the DC Universe. There's not another collective of villains as stable as them, because they're like, I won't even say like a technically evil family, but they are bad guys. But they have their own dark morals, their own rules and boundaries, and above all else, they have loyalty. And that's what you need to keep this team stable. And there's no one that demands that more than Captain Cold. So that would be my version of the Suicide Squad. Notice I didn't put anything too powerful in there, like, say, a lantern or, a reverse Flash like we've seen before, because I honestly think that when you start putting characters that are just way too powerful, someone that's going to try and take on Superman or the Justice League or something, then you're going to end up with a team that's not doing what it really set out to do, and that's covert ops. Because by the end of it, the Suicide Squad, while it's going on these suicide missions, is first and foremost supposed to be doing this covert ops. They're not supposed to get caught. The catch is, if they get caught, they're villains. So, they can be killed or whatever, and no one's going to think, oh, the government's behind us. So, first and foremost, getting caught is still an option, but it's not what you want to have happen. You want to keep yourself secret. And the more power you add to a team because of that, the better chance of getting caught you're going to have. Like I said, this is why you don't have your gigantic, Captain Atom or, somebody that's going to put up a fight, because against a big mega house. They're like, Artemis and Bane are your two closest you're really gonna get. Artemis has the abilities to a degree of Wonder Woman. I don't know, New 52, she may not be quite as powerful, but she should have a decent amount of the fighting skill, while Bane does have strength. But Bane's not going to punch Superman across the United States. Artemis, let's assume that she doesn't have the connection of the gods like Wonder Woman has, but she still has the fighting skill. She's still not going to take on Wonder Woman. Thus, why you need to keep yourself covert ops and hidden. If the Justice League manages to stumble upon you, you want it to mostly be because the only guy that managed to catch you was Bane. Or not Bane, sorry, Batman. My mistake there. Batman. Now, I'm sure it's like, well, why didn't you add somebody at least really technologically savvy? Well, that's where Waller comes in. Amanda Waller is not going to be able to be 100% like on her own. She's not going to hold her own tech wise against Cyborg. But being in the position she's in, she has access to things or people that could. And thus, while the Suicide Squad itself is going to have that core team element there, that's where some of the extra people at Waller's disposal comes in if she wants to pull in somebody that could handle, say, Superman, Wonder Woman, or Cyborg, to handle those extra things, but they're not going to be your major players. They're just there to show up, distract the powerhouses, while the Covert Ops does what they're supposed to do. So, you kind of get a feel for where I'm going with this, but that would be my Suicide Squad right there. And once again, I would love to hear and, read about what you guys think would be your team. Maybe you'd have a smaller team. I'm not sure you'd want a much bigger team than 7. 7, I'm already kind of pushing it. But, let me know. Let me hear what you guys think would be your favorite versus Suicide Squad. And, I'll be more than happy to throw my opinions out there. And, we can make some stuff. Maybe there's somebody better than Bane or better than, Captain Cold that I don't know about to fit those roles that I mentioned. Speaking of, though, is to the reason why I said I'm not going to get to see the Suicide Squad this weekend. For any of you guys that are out the way of Gen Con, I know the Power Trip here will be there, and I will be more than happy to look forward to seeing you guys. I'm not going to be at a booth or anything. I'm actually going to be mostly in the gaming area for some stuff. I've got some stuff going on there. But, hey, if you've been visiting the Culture Cast, you recognize me or anything, feel free to say hi. And hopefully I'll see you there. But if not, I will definitely see you guys next week for the next issue.